The restaurant's lights flickered once, then steadied, as if the building itself inhaled. At the corner booth, a man in a charcoal suit loosened his tie and stared at the unsigned contract on the table. Across from him sat the investor, a woman whose smile never reached her eyes. The deal was 90 seconds from closing. $100 million, a lifetime of hustle, the kind of money that buys islands and erases childhood spent eating cereal with water. The CEO's pen hovered. The investor's manicured fingers drummed, and then the new waitress stepped between them. "Sir, you have to leave now." Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the clink of silverware like a dropped glass. Every head in the dining room turned. The maitre d' froze mid-step. The investor's eyebrows climbed toward her hairline. The CEO looked up, irritation flashing across his face, and that was when he saw her eyes, wide, urgent, the color of storm clouds before rain. If you're already leaning in, hit that like button so this story finds the people who need it tonight. And if you haven't subscribed, do it now, because what happens next will change how you see second chances forever. Her name was Maya Delgado, 26, 3 shifts into her first job since the hospital released her mother with a folder of bills and a shrug. She wore the black apron like borrowed armor, the name tag still crooked because the safety pin had snapped. She had memorized the menu, the wine list, the way the chef cursed in Portuguese when the soufflé fell. What she hadn't memorized was how to spot a heart attack across a crowded room until tonight. The CEO, Alexander Voss, 38, founder of a logistics empire that moved half the avocados in California, hadn't noticed the tightness in his chest. He'd chalked it up to nerves, to the espresso he'd downed at 3 a.m., to the voicemail from his daughter he still hadn't returned. But Maya had. She'd seen the same gray pallor on her mother's face the night the ambulance came. She'd watched the same hand clutch the same spot just below the ribcage. She knew the script by heart. "Sir," she repeated, softer now, leaning in so only he could hear. "Your left arm, tell me if it's numb." Alexander opened his mouth to dismiss her, some reflex honed by years of boardrooms and bodyguards, but the words stuck. A cold sweat prickled his scalp. The pen slipped from his fingers and rolled across the contract, leaving a blue streak like a scar. The investor Vanessa Park, venture capitalist shark in stilettos, laughed once sharp. "We're in the middle of." Maya ignored her. She was already moving, one hand on Alexander's shoulder, the other fishing her phone from her apron. 911, chest pain, male, late 30s, diaphoretic. The words tumbled out, calm, practiced, the way her mother's nurse had taught her during the long nights in the ICU waiting room. Around them, the restaurant blurred, silverware clattered, a baby cried, someone's phone flashed video, but Maya's world narrowed to the man in front of her and the seconds ticking down. Alexander tried to stand. His knees buckled. Maya caught him, all 5'4" of her somehow holding up 6'2" of tailored suit and panic. "Easy, sit, head between your knees." She guided him down, her voice the only steady thing in the room. The contract fluttered to the floor, forgotten. Paramedics arrived in 4 minutes that felt like 40. They cut through the crowd with the authority of people who'd seen worse. Oxygen mask, IV line, monitor beeping a rhythm that sounded too fast, then too slow. Alexander's eyes found Maya's as they lifted him onto the stretcher. "The deal," he rasped. "It'll wait," she said, "you won't." The doors swung shut behind them. The restaurant exhaled. Vanessa Park stared at the empty booth, the unsigned papers, the blue streak across clause 14.2. Then she looked at Maya, who was already untying her apron with shaking hands. "You just cost me $100 million, Vanessa said. Maya met her gaze. "I just saved a life, you're welcome." Hit that like button if you've ever chosen a human over a headline. Subscribe so you never miss the moment kindness rewrites the script. 3 weeks later, Alexander Voss sat in a hospital bed that cost more per night than Maya's monthly rent. The heart attack had been mild, widowmaker adjacent, the cardiologist called it, but the message was clear: slow down or stop forever. He'd spent the first week staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment Maya's voice cut through the noise. The second week, he fired his assistant for scheduling a follow-up pitch meeting. The third week, he asked to see the waitress who'd ruined his deal and saved his life. Maya arrived in jeans and a borrowed blazer, her mother's rosary tucked in her pocket. The nurse had warned her. Mr. Voss was particular. She expected a lecture, maybe a lawsuit. Instead, she found him standing by the window, thinner, tie gone, holding 2 paper cups of coffee that didn't taste like hospital. "You saved my life," he said without preamble. "I clocked out early that night," she replied. "My boss wasn't thrilled." Alexander laughed, then winced, hand to his chest. "I'm buying the restaurant." Maya blinked. "The bistro." "All of them, the chain. I looked it up, publicly traded, underwater on debt, perfect turnaround play, but that's not why." He set the coffees down. "I want you to run the flagship location, the one where you dragged me out of my own ego. I'm a waitress with a GED and student loans I can't pronounce. You're the reason I'm breathing. That's a better resume than Harvard." She stared at him, waiting for the punchline. It never came. Subscribe now. This is where the story flips from survival to second acts. Maya's first day as general manager, she wore the same black apron, but now it had her name embroidered in gold. The staff cooks who'd mocked her shaky tray skills, servers who'd rolled their eyes at her questions, watched her walk in like she'd grown a second head. She didn't give a speech. She just changed the break policy, 15 minutes every 2 hours, no exceptions, because she'd learned the hard way what happens when you ignore your body. Alexander showed up unannounced, leaning on a cane he hated. Thought I'd see how my investment's doing. Your investment's short-staffed, and the walk-in cooler's at 41 degrees. He grinned, fix it, budget's yours. She did. She hired her mother's former nurse as a wellness coordinator, free BP checks, mandatory stretch breaks, a nap pod in the back that the line cooks fought over. She rewrote the menu with her abuela's recipes, the ones that had sustained a family of 6 on a janitor's salary. The mole poblano became the bestseller. Critics called it soul food in a Michelin disguise. Yelp reviews mentioned the Waitress turned manager who remembered your kid's name and slipped them extra churros. Vanessa Park returned 6 months later, alone, no entourage. She slid into the same corner booth. Maya approached, order pad ready. Still no deal, Maya asked. Vanessa's smile was different now, smaller, real. The market shifted. Your boyfriend's company pivoted to sustainable cold chain tech, stocks up 40%. I missed the boat. She paused. I was awful that night. You were scared, Maya said. We all were. Vanessa ordered the mole and left a tip that covered Maya's mother's next chemo copy. If this moment of grace just hit you, smash that like button. Subscribe, we're building to the part where the numbers don't matter anymore. A year later, the bistro's anniversary party spilled onto the sidewalk. String lights, mariachi, a bounce house for the line cook's kids. Alexander arrived in a linen shirt, no watch, daughter on his shoulders. She was 8 now, gap-toothed, clutching a crayon drawing of a heart with stick figure legs. For the lady who saved my dad, she announced, thrusting it at Maya. Maya knelt. This is going in the lobby, permanent exhibit. Alexander watched them, something soft in his eyes he didn't used to allow. I never signed that contract, he said later over flan. Turned out the investor wanted control, not partnership. I walked. And built something better, Maya finished. He shook his head. You did, I just wrote the check. The night ended with fireworks, cheap ones from the corner store, but the kids didn't care. Maya stood on the curb, apron swapped for a sundress, her mother beside her in a wheelchair, oxygen tank decorated with stickers. The older woman squeezed her hand. You were always leaving, her mother said. I just didn't know where to. Maya looked at the restaurant, the laughter, the man who'd learned to say no to save his yes. I think I'm here now. Alexander found her later, 2 plastic cups of champagne. To the deal that wasn't, he toasted. To the life that is, she countered. They clinked. Somewhere inside, the new waitress, another single mom, another set of bills, was learning the menu, the wine list, the way the chef cursed in Portuguese. Maya made a mental note to check on her break schedule. If you're crying happy tears like this video, subscribe with notifications, because the best stories aren't about the money you make, but the lives you refuse to lose. 2 years after the night that almost ended everything, Alexander stood in the same dining room, now painted the color of sunrise. The tables were pushed back, chairs in rows. Maya walked down an aisle of fairy lights, her mother rolling beside her, scattering marigold petals from a basket. The groom wore linen again, no tie, and when the officiant asked for rings, Alexander's daughter produced them from a velvet pouch shaped like a heart with legs. The vows were short, Maya's, I will always tell you when to leave the table. Alexander's, I will always come back to it. After the kiss, the staff erupted, cooks in toques, servers in aprons, the dishwasher who taught Maya how to swear in 3 languages. Vanessa Park sat in the back, clapping harder than anyone, a check in her purse she'd never cash. Outside, the marquee read, closed for private event. Inside, the new sign above the hostess stand quoted the night that started it all. Sir, you have to leave now. Sometimes the most expensive meals are the ones you walk away from. The story doesn't end here. It restarts every time someone chooses a pulse over a profit, a person over a percentage. If that's the kind of world you want to live in, like this video, subscribe, share it with the workaholic who forgets to eat, the parent skipping checkups, the kid who thinks success means never stopping. Because the real $100 million deal isn't signed on paper. It's the moment you look up from the table and realize you're still here to finish the meal. And if you're still reading this, comment below, what table do you need to leave tonight? I'll read everyone. See you in the next story.